Star Wars, the original Star Wars, came out when I was 8 years old. And before that summer had ended, I had seen Star Wars in the theaters 51 and a half times. Pretty big feat for a kid who wasn't old enough to earn an allowance. But why did I do that? Well, because every time I saw Star Wars was potentially the last time I'd ever see Star Wars. There was no streaming, no DVD. Hell, there weren't even VHS tapes. In those antique days of 1977, once a movie left the theater, it was gone forever. So as far as I knew, every time I watched Luke fly an X-Wing was the last time I'd see Luke fly an X-Wing. I had to stock up on Star Wars memories. So I badgered every relative and friend's mom to, please, I beg of you, take me with you. Take me to the movie theater 51 and a half times. It's that and a half time that's the critical part here. See, my grandparents, who I'd suckered into taking me to see Star Wars at least 5 times before this, misread the movie opening time one fine Sunday afternoon. They arrived an hour early. And rather than going home, like sane people would, or cooling their heels in the parking lot for an hour, I convinced not only them, but the theater manager to let me go in an hour early while the previous showing was still running, so I could watch the best part of Star Wars, the trench run, and then sit down and watch Star Wars again. Which is why, years later, I asked the question, why was the Death Star trench run so good that shy 8-year-old me would sweet-talk a theater manager into letting me see the trench run alone? Because in the 44 years since that heady summer of 1977, I have watched that trench run well over 200 times. And every time, even the times I try actively not to, I feel this bottomless terror welling up, as if this time Vader will somehow shoot Luke down. And as much as I try to suppress that wild excitement, well, every time feels like the first time. And with one exception, that feeling is not recreated in the other Death Star trench runs. Not that Star Wars hasn't tried. They love their Death Star trench runs. They did a vertical trench run in Return of the Jedi, but there I'm mostly concerned with the fight in the throne room. They did it in Phantom Menace and...
Now this is pod racing!
Yeah. And they did it in Force Awakens, and I'm pretty sure they did it in The Rise of Skywalker, though I wasn't really paying attention. And no matter how many times Star Wars has attempted to go back to that trenchantous well, it's never been done better than in A New Hope. So why? What's the secret sauce? What makes the Death Star trench run so damn effective? Well, I could say it's that delicious tension. The fact that with every passing minute, the Death Star draws closer to destroying the Rebel base. It's not just whether they'll destroy the Death Star, but whether they'll do it in time. Which wasn't even in the original cut of the movie. Yeah, in the original cut, which was so long and so dull it lulled investors to sleep, those X-Wings were just flying around with no time limit. You notice how Leia never expresses any concern about potentially being blown up on camera? That's because she wasn't in any danger. The Death Star coming into range, the princess in the firing line, that was all spliced in from existing footage. It's all proof of Lucas's genius. Marcia Lucas. Yeah, you don't hear about that a whole lot. The fact that George Lucas shit the bed, filming 40,000 feet of pilots saying riveting stuff like orange zebra going in, and in the end, the only thing that saved Star Wars was his Oscar-nominated wife taking 8 weeks in the editing room to desperately piece together some rhythm to this shapeless piece of crap. She saved Star Wars. Say it again. She saved Star Wars. And yet we hardly ever hear about her contribution. Is that because she's a... what? Oh, right. She's a woman. Well, at least we know the sexism in Star Wars starts right at the root. But that's not why the Death Star trench run is so effective. Well, is it because of the way that the trench run effortlessly rests the success of the mission on whether the characters become the people they're meant to be? Because here's the deal. if Luke does not trust the Force, as we know he damn well should, the rebellion ends in a burst of Alderaanian fireworks. But Luke is not put in a position to become a Jedi. Make no mistake, our starry-eyed farm boy is pure cannon fodder. He's a warm body to buy time for the real leaders to get in there. And the trench run doesn't frame him as the protagonist. There's no hero shot where he's filmed from his magnificent angle. He's literally lost in the crowd for minutes at a time, framed exactly like all of the other pilots. One generic white boy and a swarm of rattletrap fighters flung into war in what is pretty clearly marked as a suicide mission. The rebellion needs a Jedi. They have one. But nobody realizes that, including Luke. And if that light does not go on, then the rebellion goes out. So in that last pell-mell race down the trench, there's two ways that Luke can screw up. And he knows about one, but not the other. That sequence catches you between two competing tensions, one physical and one mental. Will Luke be shot down? And will Luke think like a soldier or like a Jedi? Because if Luke buys into the concept that he's like all the other pilots, he will fucking die. Likewise, though we don't know it, not that first time, the rebellion will also perish if Han Solo, that lovable rogue, doesn't realize that he too is a hero. If Han doesn't have a crisis of conscience, we're going to watch an accidental filicide here as Darth Vader goes, "Did that last one feel weird to you?" and flies back to his room full of Marilyn Manson posters to mope in his weed chamber. Writers talk about character arcs, which is a fancy way of saying, what has this person learned from the story they're in? But in most Hollywood movies, and particularly Hollywood blockbusters, that last act is structured around highlighting the character's unique qualities. Star Wars flips that, making Luke and Han dispensable characters in a larger saga unless they choose to be. And the film requires them to not just be talented, but to be true to themselves. But that's not why the trench run is so good. There's actually a secret spice in Star Wars A New Hope that they don't use in any other Star Wars film. All except for Rogue One, which, by no coincidence, has the second greatest battle in all of Star Wars. And I've never seen anyone talk about this. So, like Luke, I guess it's up to me. Whoa, this is not a good look. I got this at Amazon for like 30 bucks. See, this is high-tech stuff here. Okay, Luke can do this. I can do this. Doesn't really fit. Aren't you a little fat for an X-Wing pilot? I guess you are. Okay. Let's see. Can I get my other hand in here? This is gonna be... Use the Force, Luke. Okay. I think my arm's stuck in here. Wait, I got it. Okay. All right, I don't got it. Jenny, can you hear me? I'm trapped in an X-Wing suit. Help. Okay. What is your problem? I'm trapped. Just pull here. Just pull a little here. This is my dog. She was very... Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Are we filming all of this?
We are filming all of this. So here's the trick that makes the Death Star trench run so damn effective. Right here.
Watch it, you've got one on your tail!
You see it? Okay, you probably don't, but let's show some of the other Star Wars space battles. Here's Return of the Jedi.
Only the fighters are attacking. I wonder what those Star Destroyers are waiting for.
And here's Force Awakens. And here's Phantom Menace.
This is tense!
You see what's missing in those? Okay, let's go back.
Loosen up! Got a problem here. Eject! I can hold it. Pull up! No, I'm all right.
Notice how the other shots just show explosions, but Star Wars shows the human being inside dying. In all the later Star Wars movies, and the earlier ones, depending on how you view them, the space battles become increasingly antiseptic. The protagonists are flying through a big explodey set piece, they're ducking under lasers, ships are flying apart. We're seeing more and more destruction with each added film. But mark that. Ships are flying apart. There's very few bodies in those ships. They're basically plastic toys that burst into flames when injured. And it's exciting, one big military 4th of July show. But in Star Wars, the original Star Wars, that excitement is tempered by the fact that every explosion has a human being wedged into the middle of it. And I mean every explosion. I counted. Not an X-Wing gets shot down that we don't cut over to the pilot burning up inside of it. We don't get to look away from the human cost of this mission. Hell, they're shoving our faces into it, screaming, "There goes another one! He's the fat one! He's the commander!"
Listen to them, they're dying, R2.
And regardless of whether you consciously clock those explicitly rendered deaths, that repetition sets a rhythm. We don't feel safe in the cockpit. We're not viewing this battle from that sleek and flashy outside, but from the inside of a sweaty coffin with guns attached. Each ship shot down reduces the numbers in a visceral way. It's not just one less X-Wing to carry out this impossible task, but one less person. That's something the other movies lack, and they are lessened for it. Return of the Jedi fills the screen with chaos, but with a few exceptions, they're mass-produced deaths that engender no concern. Poe Dameron's a hell of a pilot in Force Awakens, but for practical purposes, he might be the only pilot leading that charge. And as for the other movies...
Now this is pod racing!
Jesus Christ. And remember what I said about Luke being anonymized? How he doesn't get the noble close-up? All he's got is that boxy, framed by the cockpit angle that every other pilot gets before they die? The only other movie in the series where they consistently do that, where they punctuate each ship shot down with a howl of despair, is Rogue One. And even though the whole point of Rogue One is that, yeah, this is the all-mook squad, an armada of disposable pilots flinging their life into the maw in the one faint hope of passing the Death Star plans off to the people who can use it, the reason the final third of that movie works, despite a wretched first and second act, is because the whole point of Rogue One is to tally the deaths, mark the fallen. And one of the reasons the new trilogy feels so bloodless is because it is. Rey, Finn, Poe. They might be abandoned by the plot because nobody could think of anything interesting for Finn to do, but they won't be harmed. They were heroes from the beginning. They had that indestructible plot armor welded on. Whereas in A New Hope, at least in the final act, Luke wasn't a real hero. He was a starry-eyed grunt with a fun story to tell down at the cantina about this princess rescuing craziness before they shot him into orbit like a monkey in a Soviet space capsule. And the ships being shot down around him held fragile human beings, people who screamed and flailed and burned when the lasers hit them. And each one who died gets a 3-second memorial shot of their death, so you realize that could be anyone. That could be Luke. And that's why the Death Star sequence got my 8-year-old self. It gets my 48-year-old self, and it will probably get my 98-year-old self if I'm not a Force ghost by then. The trench run sequence works because the accent is on the wars, not the star. And it works because of Marcia Lucas. Seriously, she's amazing. pull your head out of George's ass and throw a little credit to the real hero, okay? Jesus.